Sarah, why don't you start us off?
What, did you get scared away for?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's go. Let's just go.
All right. Hello and welcome. Iris, thank you for being with us today. Chris and I are so excited to have a few minutes to talk to Iris Zhang, who is the one of the leaders in the Youth Climate Lobby in Vermont. And we are so thankful that you're with us here today, but also for the great work that you and your peers are doing around the state. Chris and I talk about this so often about how important the youth voice was in helping us pass the Global Warming Solutions Act that brings us to this moment where we're eagerly awaiting the first climate plan to help us get on track to reduce emissions. And it is not an exaggeration to say we could not have passed that bill without your help. The youth coming to the State House, youth having a rally on the lawn, the declaration of a climate emergency, and the fact that you all came here into the building and came to every single committee and shared with us your thoughts and about the urgent moment that we're in was really instrumental in helping us pass the Global Warming Solutions Act and in helping us override the veto when Governor Scott decided to veto the bill. So thank you. And I really can't wait to hear what's next in the youth climate movement.
Yeah, well, thank you both and all the legislators who helped pass that, because that work was so important and we are so grateful for it. And what's coming next is part of that work in the work of the Global Warming Solutions Act and the Climate Council and the upcoming Climate Action Plan. So looking forward to working closely with you and helping make sure that is implemented in the right ways.
Thank you.
Iris, I just want to jump in and echo Sarah. I mean, it really is, we're in debt to you and to young activists who understandably take this issue very, very seriously. And I'm curious, we've been talking with viewers about the process of the Climate Council and coming up with a climate plan and starting to preview that a little bit and doing our own work with legislators to get it previewed. And some days it feels really kind of dull to me. Like the process involves hours and hours of meetings and hashing these things out. How does that work for you all? Like, are people aware of the slog kind of, or how are you plugging in? I'd love to just understand sort of what it means to folks that you and to other activists. What are you guys doing?
Yeah, it is sort of hard to get youth engaged in this particular process, just because it is so grueling and it's such nitty-gritty details of all these policies. So we're working on sort of funneling people towards the public engagement process and getting them involved through sort of giving them a synopsis of what's happening and seeing what feedback they have there, just because a lot of the times we use our voices as sort of a leverage to call for action, because we really do need climate action. But it's harder because everyone else in these rooms has PhDs and has all these this technical knowledge about what it really takes to create a climate action plan and create a climate future for us. So we're sort of working at a more high level and giving them direction as to how they can better do that, and sort of some criticism as to how they could be doing things in ways that are more equitable and more bold and ambitious.
Yeah, that's fair. Sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
One of the common themes that we heard when we were doing our roadshow in 2019 from the young people who would come to our events was, you're not being bold enough, you're not moving fast enough. And that's a really helpful message for legislators and policymakers to hear. We may be following the work of the climate subcommittees, and they may be really just, opening up all sorts of different policies and getting deep into the nitty-gritty details. But at the end of the day, move and move fast is a message that is helpful to hear, and one that we've heard often from youth who have been engaging with us.
Yeah, and it holds true, because I mean the recent IPCC report came out, and we discussed it through Youth Lobby, and we were just talking about how it reflects everything that we've known and everything that we've been telling people, and it just is the science to back it up in a way that is more concrete than all the other science we've been telling people about, and the ways that we've been urging people to take this seriously and take our future seriously. Are just really being realized in this moment, when people are sort of coming to terms with the effects of all of the inaction that's been happening in the past years.
I'm struck. I'd love to understand what you think. The legislature it's not a big secret, filled with older people, right? People tend to find time to run if they're at the end of their career or they're retired or whatever. And you have Sarah and I are among the youngest, and we're hardly young. And so when youth voices come to the State House, it's actually very powerful, because folks are reminded of their grandkids, and in particular, I think, and obviously we're talking about the future. So you have a real impact for legislators, and if nothing else comes across to you and your gang, please know how incredibly powerful you are in that way. But do you find that elsewhere? Like, if do you and everyone you're working with, do you notice you're having an impact locally on your community, with parents, with grandparents, with just generally the concept, or is that something that is particularly effective in Montpelier, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question, because I think that it's sort of both, that people really do listen to us more, and that people sort of dismiss us in the same way, because sort of there is a really easy way to dismiss us, and that we're too young and too inexperienced to know what is happening and to understand like the complexities of this. And maybe to some effect that's true, because we don't understand as much as some people, but I think that sort of disregards the fact that most people don't, not everyone is policy experts when they're young, but not everyone is policy experts, period. So I think that I find that young people have an impact, usually in a more emotional way, but then when it is convenient for people, they tend to disregard what we're saying. So it usually sort of feeds into a confirmation bias. And when people want to listen to us and want to hear our voices, it's really great. But sometimes people tend to listen to our voices and say, thank you so much for your comment. We really appreciate your perspective. We really appreciate your voice. And now we're going to go do something that's really bad.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry, that's frustrating. Let's make sure that we help you maneuver around that. And I think certainly when you all are working to come together as a group, you're having a greater impact. So that's really it's a testament to your commitment to this, that you're organizing these activities. So you all gathered on the State House lawn in September. Tell me a little bit about who was there that day, and what you were working on, and what you hope will come out of that.
Yeah. It was a really great just gathering of a small group of young people who are really engaged in this work, because we have these rallies for the planet, and we have these great big gatherings and protests sometimes, but sometimes it's hard to get those people to show up again. And this was a group of students who really wanted to be engaged in making this change, because it really only takes a small group of people, these young voices, to make that difference. So it was a group of students coming to sort of learn from each other, connect with each other, eat food together, and learn from some great leaders in our state in a way that we haven't been able to do in a long time because of the pandemic. And we haven't been able to make these connections that are really important to organizing, or even just get connected with younger students who don't even know that there is a climate movement they can get connected to, because people are sort of coming into this in the middle of a pandemic, and we aren't able to make these just cross-state connections so that we can like effectively leverage our power together. So that was a really great introduction, and then we're hoping to funnel that into more youth lobby meetings and more meetings generally, so that we can start getting on the ground and doing more organizing the way that we have been able to in the past.
And so you're talking a little bit about what's next. Is and this is a very self-centered question, I guess, but is Montpelier a big part of the focus and getting ready for the legislative session, or have you given up on us and you're moving on to other fronts? What's the strategy? I'm curious what people are interested in.
Yeah. So we're still sort of talking through what our year's plan looks like, but a big part of that is Montpelier and making sure that in this coming legislative session, the things that are ready for implementation coming out of the climate action plan really do get passed through the legislature and get passed the way they were written, because I do think that there's a big risk that that the legislature is going to take these recommendations coming out of the climate action plan and say, oh, those are really nice recommendations, we're going to do something entirely different, and we're going to change them and change the nature of them so that they aren't implemented as equitably, because I think that we really need to be watching the implementation of these big ideas, because that's where it gets down to whether it's helping people or not. So we're really hoping to put some pressure on you all to make sure that that happens, and make sure that the plan really is taken from the administration as well. So it's not just the legislature, it's also administrative rulemaking and other sorts of things like that.
Yeah,
right.
Great.
Some of the solutions that will come out as recommendations are things that will require the legislature to act, but others of them are things that the administration could begin doing today.
Yeah, and the way I think of it, and I'm thrilled, it's a great answer and suits our needs of having your help at a pivotal moment. I really feel like to prove to ourselves as a state, we need some momentum coming out of this, right? So the climate, it's been sort of building. Now the climate plan comes forward. We have this intense sort of international moment of all sorts of wildfires and floods and you name it. If you needed evidence, it's there. We have some money because of the federal money and the way the economy is cooking right now. And if we get the climate plan and it peters out and kind of lands as a dud, it'll be demoralizing to me, but also to you guys, I should imagine. And so it's just this interesting symbiotic moment where we need to prove it to ourselves and to you and to folks across the state that this can be good. This can be very strengthening for our community, for our economy, for jobs, for, all manner of ways that people are kind of monitoring it. So thank you I'm glad that's the focus, and we need it because we need that momentum to take next steps, next year and the year after that. Let's face it, this is not a one and done situation. What do you think? Are people just coming to be part of your group because they're worried generally? Do they have sort of like, do you have people that come, well, I'm worried about maple syrup, or, I'm curious sort of what brings people out to get active when, young people have a lot going on?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that I've had anyone come and be specifically like, I'm really worried about maple syrup, but I think that it's just the general anxiety and stress that comes with being a young person and having so much uncertainty in not only just your own future, but the future of our planet. Because I think everyone as young people had like uncertainty as to the future. Like, what am I going to do after high school? What am I going to do next year? But when you have to think about that in the terms of where is our planet going to be in the next 5 years? And will the jobs that I'm trying to train for still exist in the next 5 years as something that's a good part of our economy? That makes it much more stressful, and everyone is sort of acutely aware of that. And so it's really hard for a lot of young people. I think that that's something that's not understood, that it's just hard to be a young person generally, because everyone does have this understanding of that and this general stress and anxiety, and let alone having to go through a pandemic at such a young age. So there's this hopelessness and this stress and anxiety that we all have. And so we're working to hopefully funnel that into action and sort of give these young people an outlet for that, so that they can sort of make changes based on these things that are terrifying and really big, and show them that they can make really big changes to combat that.
Yeah.
Excellent. So if I'm a young person watching this, what would you tell me as far as how I can get involved or follow along with what you're doing or join the movement?
Yeah, I would tell you that you should come join our youth lobby meetings and get on our listserv so that we can keep in contact with you and connect you with all the resources that you need to sort of make your visions for the world happen. And you can do that by getting on our email list from the link. But I think that more generally, I think that I would just tell people that they have the ability to make change, that in our small state, in our country, just generally, this is a moment where if you're a young person and you have an idea of how to make the world better, you can make that happen. And you just need people supporting you, people helping you do that work. And we've got a group of young students who are really excited to be that support and to connect you with the resources you need to make whatever you see your future being happen. So I think that really the most important thing you can do is just have an idea and go for it, and be inspiring to others by just making your own thing happen and finding the way that you're going to make an impact in this world, because that's all we're all trying to do.
Iris, you're awesome. You're a total hero to me. Thank you. And, a couple to pick up on your theme. People say to me all the time, well, what's the best way I should reach legislators? Should I call them? Should I go set up coffee with them? Should I email them? And I always say, yes, right? There's no, it doesn't matter. You don't have to craft a 5-paragraph dissertation on why I should support climate action. You can email me and say, please fight for climate. Sincerely, Joe Schmo, right? It just people are always like, well, I don't know enough. I don't know. No, legislators don't know that much necessarily. This is the whole premise of a citizen legislature. And so I want to just echo some of what you're saying and say to anyone viewing, young people especially, you don't have to be an expert. Don't let yourself be intimidated. And it's totally legitimate in a democracy to say, I wish you would do more for climate. Thanks. Right? I mean, that's it. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. Anyway, thank you. You give me a little shot in the arm, and thank you for all the work you're doing. I look forward to working with you. I know we look forward to working with you, and just a lot of gratitude. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Iris, for the great work. Thank you for the energy and the optimism. Thank you for giving hope and giving voice to the concerns and worries of young people. And we are right there with you. We want to work with you. So please do keep organizing your peers to petition their government to act on climate.
Thank you for making this space. That's a really important part of making change, is having leaders who are receptive to it. So that's a really great part of this as well. And just thank you for having me and having these conversations.
You're very welcome. Thanks to Bob the Green Guy for pulling us together and helping our videos come along and get across the state.
You took my line.
Sorry. I always do that.
Thanks, Bob.
Bye-bye.